Hello class, this is Demetrius Wilson. This is Management 2. We're now on Chapter 7, Organization Change and Innovation. Great supplement of videos on the topic. Be sure to watch those and be sure to get through the entire lecture and read the chapter for Chapter 7. So after studying this chapter, you should be able to describe the nature of organization change, discuss the steps in organization change and how to manage resistance to change. That's a big key to it. Identify and describe the major areas of organization change and discuss the assumption techniques and effectiveness of organization development, and describe the innovation process, right? We live in a very innovative society, especially with the computers, smartphones, and things of that nature. Cultivating innovation at IKEA. I want you guys to check out the article on IKEA. Some of you guys may be big IKEA fans and may have your whole house furnished by IKEA. But check out the very interesting article. A little long, but still think you should review it in totality. So organization change is any substantive modification to some part of the organization, right? So it has to take some substantial effect to what's going on within the company, whether it be the management functions, whether it be some tasks or processes that weren't there or some that were there that are getting removed. It has to be, a substantial impact. So for instance, I used to work for a company that used to start at 8 o'clock or you start at 8:30. And this is, somewhat common in the insurance industry, but you got paid like you started at 8 o'clock. And then one day they came in, they said, no more of that. So now you're going to have to start at 8 o'clock. So that's a pretty substantial organizational change that could affect a lot of individuals within the company. Could lower morale, but it could also increase the productivity. So I'm sure they sat down and weighed the pros and cons about that. A planned change is a change that is designed and implemented in an orderly and timely fashion in anticipation of future events. So we know that something's going to happen, so we plan for this, and then this is what we have in place. So for instance, like you have, when I talk about like the somebody on the bench or succession planning, we plan that this individual is going to get promoted and go to another business unit, so we plan to put this other person in their place. Reactive change, you don't want to be reactive, you want to be proactive when you can, but if you need to be and you have to be reactive. It's a piecemeal response to circumstances as they develop. So as they develop, then you react. Is that the best way to go about doing things? Absolutely not. But in life, that's what you have to do from time to time. Be sure to read about the Lewin model and watch the videos about freezing, unfreezing, and refreezing. Or unfreeze. And then make the change and refreeze, right? So people are stuck. They're stuck in place. And so you want to unfreeze them from doing what they're doing, change whatever the process is, then refreeze them so they continue to do it the right way. And as you read through that, you'll see the step-by-step process in regards to that. And so I'm sure some of you guys have done it before, just never knew who created it or what it is really called. So these are steps in the change process. So one, you need to recognize the need for change, and you just float down the line. Establish the goals for establishment of goals for the change. Diagnose relevant variables, selection of appropriate change technique, planning for implementation of the change, actual implementation, because you can't just change it. You have to plan for it, then implement it, and evaluation and follow-up. So people think that change is happening, just come. It's not that easy. It's not that quick. If you're going to do it the right way, you need to plan it out. Steps in the change process. Managers must understand how and why to implement change. A manager who, when implementing change, follows a logical and orderly sequence like the one shown here is more likely to succeed than a manager who change process is haphazard and poorly conceived. And I've done both. I've done it where it just went in, changed some things, and it didn't work out. And I've also done it in a nice orderly fashion, and things did work out a lot better. Sometimes it just takes a little bit of patience, right? So be sure to go through those, threatened self-interest, feelings of loss, things of that nature. You must make sure that you be patient and read through the chapter in totality, because there's a lot of good things in there. Leading the way, so charting a quote-unquote new old course. So I want you to be sure to read that article. Lenovo, I'm on a Lenovo computer right now, so you have to check that out. Some of you guys may have Lenovo computers or laptops that you're using. Pretty decent size article, but read it. As I always say, I wouldn't recommend you reading them if they didn't have some value or substance. So if you check these out, so these are, if you want to do pros and cons, you have to do the scales, like, what's good, what's bad about the decision. So reason for closing, we're going to close a plant, need to cut costs, excess capacity, outmoded production facilities, right? So they're no longer, useful. You have to put in new machines. Reasons against closing, resistance from unions, concern about worker welfare, right? You're concerned about what's going to happen to the people and possible future needs, right? So this is part of what you call force field analysis for plant closing at General Motors. A force field analysis can help a manager facilitate change. A manager who is able to identify forces acting both for and against the change can see where to focus efforts to remove barriers to change. Removing the forces against the change can at least partially overcome resistance, right? So, we're just going to say these are the reasons why, these are the reasons why we shouldn't, and then let's see what's best for the overall health of the company, because that's what you need to look out for, right? So sometimes when you kind of pose it to people differently, you say, I know everybody's mad and upset that we had to have some layoffs, but if we didn't lay off these 15 people, then within 2 months, none of us would have a job. And sometimes people, they understand that. Now, it can't always, at certain levels of company and certain levels of, information that you give and provide, can't always give that amount of information. But if you can, the companies are very, very transparent. They tend to say, hey, these are the reasons why we made this decision. Areas of organization change. So you have organization structure and design, technology and operations, and people, right? And they fall under each one of these categories. So job design, departmentalization or not, technology and operations, so what type of information technology, the equipment, the work processes, people, what type of abilities and skills they have, what's their performance, what are their perceptions and their expectations of their own performance, as well as the performance of others and the company too. So all those different factors come into play. So we can go ahead and skip that. Business change, or business process change, or re-engineering. So it's a radical redesign of all aspects of a business to achieve major gains in cost, service, or time, right? So this is as you see there, it's re-engineering, and it's going to be a radical redesign, a radical change. So it's a lot to it. It's not like, hey, we're just changing the locks on the doors. We're changing, the way that we do things, the way that we do business. And I've engineered that in a few, my positions at companies before. But a lot of times these are just overarching, oversweeping, like, hey, we're going to change the company emblem, or we're going to change the store color and the store setup and the schematics and everything, because we want it to look a lot different. Tough times, tough choices, right? To offshore or to not offshore. That's a question that all companies have. Do we want? And remember, offshore is different from outsourcing. Offshore means that this is outside of the United States. It's not domestic. Outsourcing could be that I'm just having somebody in the city of Vernon complete it. So be sure to read that, because that is really very relevant to what you do, and very relevant to what you may or may not do in the future. As far as company choices and as far as position choices as well. So you have to take all those things into effect. All right, so here's the re-engineering process in the building blocks. So develop goals and a strategy for the re-engineering effort, right? So like you said, you just don't go into it. You need to develop some type of strategy before you implement it. Emphasize top management's commitment to the re-engineering effort, right? So you have to keep re-emphasizing the fact that, hey, upper management is on board. This is what they want to do, and you need to get on board as well. Create a sense of urgency among members of the organization. Have like send something out with a clock, and the clock's ticking and saying, hey, this is how many days we have left, or a countdown thing. I've done that before in organizations. Start with a clean slate and recreate the organization, so it's a brand new, fresh organization. And then optimize the top-down and bottom-up perspective, right? So top-down means, hey, the upper management saying, hey, this is what we're going to do. We'll put it down. Bottom up means we're going to start from the bottom, and then they kind of dictate what's going to happen. Now, we see a lot more top down because people at the top don't want to relinquish the control. But sometimes you do, a lot of progressive companies, you see bottom up where they say, this is what we need, then up to the next block, then up to the next block, gets all the way up to the CEO, and he says, this is, what we're going to need, and this is what we're going to do. Organizational development is the plan, effort, that is organization-wide, managed from the top, and intended to increase organizational effectiveness and health through planned interventions in the organization's processes using behavioral science and knowledge. So all these things that you've learned throughout the textbook, we're going to implement those into organization development or redevelopment of our company, our structure, and the things that we do on a day-to-day basis. It's a great thing to kind of recalibrate and sit back and say, hey, you know what? These are changes that we need to make to the organization. We do have the time and the resources to do so. Let's do it now. Let's not wait. Innovation. Innovation is the managed effort of an organization to develop new products or services or new users for existing products or services, right? So you may want to innovate in terms of your internal processes, right? We can do this more efficiently. Let's change it this way. You may also want to innovate in terms of the products and services that you sell and who you sell it to. Like maybe you're selling it to a different audience because you're saying, hey, we used to sell it to ABC audience, but you know what? We make a few tweaks, we can sell it to XYZ audience and we can make a lot more money. As computers, phones, and things change from day to day, we will continue to innovate as individuals and as companies as well. So this is the innovation process. So we'll listen to this clearly because some of you guys are very innovative, very creative, and it may help you along the way. So first, development. Organization evaluates, modifies, and improves on a creative idea, right? Evaluate what it is, modify it, improve it to the best that it can be. Then application, you want to apply it. So organization uses developed idea in design, manufacturing, or delivery in new products or services or processes. Then you want to launch it. So organization introduces new products or services to the marketplace, right? Ad campaign, it's coming. Then boom, ad campaign, it's here. Boom, we've been here 2 days, buy more. Growth is the demand for new products or services grows, right? So, the effective marketing campaign, then the demand for it continues to grow. So our profits and our pocketbook continues to grow. Maturity, most competing firms have access to the idea, right? So a company becomes mature, sales kind of level off, and it's where they're going to be for a while until you get to that decline part, which is next, and that's demand for innovation decreases and substitute innovations are developed and applied, right? So let's go on and move on to something different, and the cycle repeats. So the innovation process, organizations actively seek to manage the innovation process. These steps illustrate the general life cycle that characterizes most innovations. Of course, with creativity, the innovation process will suffer if it is approached too mechanically or rigidly, right? So if you remove the innovation, just say, okay, we need it so structured, then it's probably not going to work out. But innovation, it's a big thing in companies. It's a big thing with all of us. We need to learn how to do things bigger, better, faster, stronger as we go on throughout our careers, and as the companies go out through their life cycle as well. So you can have a radical innovation, a new product or service or technology that completely replaces an existing one. Like this new phone that has touchscreen is going to completely replace the ones that you actually have the physical press keys. I know some of you guys, maybe one and two in a class, like those hard keys, but those things are a thing of the past. Incremental innovations, so a new product, service, or technology that modifies an existing one, right? So I have an iPhone or a Samsung 6, and now we can live stream, right? I can take video of something and it's streaming right to a website. So it's something new. I've added something on to something that's currently existing. Technical innovation, so a change in appearance or performance of a product or service, the physical processes through which a product or service is manufactured. So maybe I make the phone go faster, or maybe I make it have more capabilities for Wi-Fi. Managerial innovations, a change in the management process in an organization. So we're going to change how management does things. Maybe we're going to be a more friendlier managerial environment. Product innovation is a change in the physical characteristics of performance of an existing product or service or the creation of a new one, right? So maybe, it used to be a surfboard. Now we're going to change the way the surfboard looks and feels. Or we're going to just, make a brand new surfboard that's bigger, better, badder, faster. Process innovation, a change in the way a product or service is manufactured, created, or distributed. So now, if we change our process, we are trying to save costs. We're not trying to make more money, at least not on the outset. So we change our process to make it more efficient. We're going to save more money. If we change our product to be more appealing, we're going to make more money. Entrepreneurs, yes, that is a word, similar to entrepreneurs, except that they develop new businesses in the context of a large organization. So sometimes you have individuals that work at companies, and these companies say you can spend 15 to 20% of your time during the week on a pet project. And I'll tell you right now, if somebody says you can work on a pet project, that is going to give you a lot of empowerment, a lot of enabling, and allow you to, to work very, very hard and effectively because it's something that you kind of invent and you put your own into it. So a lot of companies do that, and they end up coming up with great ideas. All right. So summary of learning got here pretty quick. But we are here nonetheless. So summary of learning outcomes and key points are right there. Be sure to go over all of those. Everything that, for the most part, the things that we went over are going to be what's going to be on your Chapter 7 quiz. Pretty, clear about that throughout. So make sure that you watch the lecture, make sure that you, finish this up and that you paid attention and that you watch the supplemental videos and then that you do your reading of the chapter as well. You should have a comprehensive view of Management 2 in terms of organizational change and innovation. So as always, I want you guys all to have a good day and a great week.